Well, hello everyone. My name is Terrence, and I'm here with my lovely wife and my co-host,
Angelica.
and we're the Prathers. Welcome to another episode of the Vision for Us podcast, where we talk marriage, relationships,
All that good stuff.
all that good stuff, kids, raising kids. Y'all know, man, all that good stuff, man. I'm not finna go down the line of what we all talk about and discuss.
So if you're new here, that's what we talk about.
Yeah, we very authentic and raw,
Yes.
uncut.
Which is why you seen us laughing when we first started. There's a lot happening before we press record.
It is.
And sometimes it translates when we press record. So that's what y'all getting, the
Yeah.
real raw. Okay?
Me smacking my gum. I'm not gonna do it during the episode.
Please don't.
I'm gonna try not to.
Okay.
All right.
He loves chewing gum. Anyway, let's stay on topic.
Okay.
Today we got a really good one for you guys because I think in today's culture, we have this thought around marriage. So today we're going to be talking about marriage. Is it a covenant, not a contract? And are we treating it that way?
Treating it what way?
Are we treating it like a contract or are we treating it like a covenant?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right? So one of the things that kind of sparked this conversation was we watch a lot of, not a lot, but we watch some other podcasts, but we're not all for the culture, but culture does talk a loud amount about relationships.
They do.
And a lot of people who are talking about relationships, whether they've been married, never been married, there's a lot of people who've never been married that only talk about it. So
How do you talk about marriage and you've never been married?
I have no idea.
And then why do people listen to the people who never been married?
Because there's a lot of people that are single that love, getting either advice or,
But how are you going to listen to advice from someone who's never been married
I don't know. I think that's
and
the
you want to
dumbest
be
idea.
married, and then you're not listening to people who are actually married and in it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what we're going to talk about today.
All right, let's talk about it.
Let's get
because
into it.
I'm a little irritated.
I understand because we hear some stuff and you're like, what
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah.
So I have a couple of questions and
Okay.
then we're going to, and y'all join us in. When I'm asking the questions, you can respond and put it in the comments as well. We love to read it to see what your thought processes are. Okay. So what's the difference between a covenant and a contract in marriage?
Ooh, that's a good question. What is the difference between a covenant and a contract marriage?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think a covenant is basically what God has designed marriage to be. I think a lot of people walk into marriage nowadays more so, I would say, stars
Mm-hmm.
or entertainers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if they let me retract that. I'm not sure if they really look at marriage that way as far as a contractual agreement, but it seems like a lot of entertainers do enter marriage on a contractual type of basis.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just going to break this down because I wanted to make sure that we were setting the foundation of what a covenant is. For us, we are believers of Jesus Christ. So if you follow this show, that's our standard, right? And so,
Wait, not me.
oh, don't you a heathen?
No.
Oh, I didn't. I thought you.
I'm just kidding.
Thought you would. But a covenant is an agreement between God and his people in which God makes a promise to his people and usually requires certain conducts from them. And so I didn't never use this word a lot. I knew that it was a covenant to be in relationship with God, but when we go into marriage, I don't think that many people right now are using that word. This is a covenant. And when you value your word for yourself,
Okay.
right? I value that I took these vows. I'm going to hold myself to a certain standard. But I think because people who are in the faith, they cheat on God on a regular basis, right? They want to mix God with every other God and all these other stuff. So I think we've just become lazy sometimes in our marriage, right? Tying it to marriage, that we think that this is not going to take work. I've given you my word. I've made a covenant to you,
Right.
to be your wife, to be your helpmate, to be completely 10 toes down in this marriage, right? And I think that nowadays the language or the loud noise about it being a contract, because divorce is an option, right?
Okay.
And so when people are going into marriage, if divorce is an option, then it's a contract. It's just a piece of paper. And you'll hear them say, it's just a piece of paper. I can just divorce them and keep it moving.
Well, isn't it? in actuality, in physical terms, is it? I mean, physically, isn't it a piece of paper? Don't you both sign a piece of paper?
We do.
Isn't it a contract?
We actually.
I'm not saying I believe it's a contract. I'm just saying we do sign a contract.
But if those things were never the option, and I chose you, and as a covenant,
right,
then I'm bonded to you until death do us part.
That is true.
And I think that needs to take the priority over the fact that I signed a piece of paper and took your last name.
Of course, it should.
Right. And so that's the point that I'm making, is that I don't care about the piece of paper. I care more about the covenant that we made and the agreement that my word and your word, we're in this, we're raising our kids. We are devoted to making our marriage successful. Even though we're 9 years in, we are intentional about being in the covenant. The covenant is actually first, because we honor the fact that we took our vows very seriously, and divorce is not an option. And I think when you don't make it an option, then you are in it for the long haul.
Okay.
And do you agree that now the noise is very loud about it being a piece of paper?
And the noise is very loud.
Yes.
It's extremely loud. I think especially with, I try not to bring, what do you call it, politics into it. But now that, Trump is in office, he's changing a lot of lives. More so women's lives. It seems like a lot more women are now getting the boot from their federal jobs and I'm not sure, I don't know the stats right now as far as that's concerned, but it's going to bring a lot of women home.
When you say home, you mean like
if they're married, getting into relationships. Understand it's been loud as far as being independent. Like,
yes,
there
is a narrative.
There's a narrative that women don't need men. Women are independent. And so that, I think that has made it to where, because of that, it has made the marriage more so a contract.
Yeah, or not a desire.
Not a desire, not a covenant. And if they do get married, it's more so, I'm not saying all women, just saying it seems like that's where the world has been going, with women wanting to be being independent, or women chasing after all these degrees and chasing after their careers and stating that they don't need men. Men are not that important. They only need them for kids. Or it seems like right now it's being more contract. They'll get married if they checks all the boxes, or this person has the same amount or more. They're coming to the table with the same amount or more, instead of just looking at it as, hey, I'm in love with this person. This person adds value. They might not have everything as far as money-wise or degree-wise or whatever is on your box, but this person loves me for who I am, and I can see that this person is going to be there for me through thick and thin, and then working their way up and actually being a covenant. Yeah. Being with what marriage is intended to be, a covenant.
Well, I mean, we're kind of segueing in for singles. There is a loud narrative that is preached, and you hear it more from women. I don't want to date down. And I think that a lot of women say those things because they have had a pattern of dating people that didn't value them. And I think when you value yourself and you know who you are, and you're 10 toes down, and you do not compromise with the integrity that you stand for yourself, and what I mean by that is, if you know that a standard of your faith is very important, you don't have to drag somebody with, to be in relationship. They're going to show you if they're in a relationship with God, or that's a pursuit for them. And I'll just speak from when I was single before we met. Before we were dating or anything, we were friends. And you were like, why are you single? I'm like, because I love myself enough to know that there's just certain people that are going to come in my space that immediately I can see that we're not equally yoked. And I don't want to date without purpose. So as soon as someone just says, oh, I'm just going to kick it, or I just want to date around, you're just off the chopping block for me, because that was a standard for me. That was an integrity thing. That was a character. You're still in the la la land, and I'm not there.
Okay.
And so, yes, that is a narrative. But for going back to what we were saying about it being a covenant, I think that the noise is very loud because more couples that are fighting for the marriage, that are in the marriage, needs to start speaking up.
They're not speaking up.
Yeah, which is why we actually created this space, because it's like, where do we go to get to not partner with culture, but to part with kingdom? Where do we go? We couldn't really find it, or if we did find it, it was very niche focused, and we wanted our podcast to kind of talk about all of these different,
either niche focused or more so they're entertainers, they're in the entertainer base, or I think it was kind of hard to find.
Yeah, so we just said we'll create it, right? And the goal, for even just segueing a little bit, the goal for the vision for us is not that we get this right. We don't get it right, but we also want to have the honest conversations.
We sure don't.
We don't. We want to have the honest conversations that couples are not having. And a lot of times in marriage right now.
I mean, a couple of weeks ago, you blew up on me.
I sure enough did. I mean, I acted a plumb fool.
For no reason.
I mean, I was shocked at myself. I was so blown away that, like, after when it settled, I'm like, who was that?
But my reaction wasn't good either.
No. But what I will say is, you're gonna fight, you're gonna have arguments. We are not big fighters.
No.
So we can count on our one hand how it blew up in the 9 years we've been together. But the reason why I can say that now, like I acted a plumb fool and it was not pretty, was because I honor the covenant that I made with him. I honor who I am. And this is segueing a little bit, but grief will show up in so many different ways. And because I am grieving my grandmother, certain things are a little bit of a trigger. And this is why you got to know yourself. You have to know who you are outside of just being married. Like, I am Angelica. I have different emotions. There's a lot going on. And now he has to support a wife who's grieving, like a mother. And that looks different. And so because we are in a covenant, there is no bye. Yeah. There's no any of that. You're not walking out the door because we had a knockout, drag out, or anything like that. Now, here's the caveat. The good thing is that was an ugly fight that we haven't had in years. But who did we go to? We went to sound doctrine people that listened to us, but also gave us another mirror. And that didn't judge the fact of it, and that's, when I think about the word of God, it is the same exact thing. You're going to get your walk wrong. Right. But that's why you have the Bible to really help you. You have community to help you. And I think that's what really helped us, because we both was like, okay, that was bad. Yeah. I don't forgive as fast. I said that last time, so I'm going to he apologizes first almost all the time.
All the time.
Yes. He's good at it. Your girl is a little shabby. And you know what? I process a lot longer than he processes. He gets it quick, and then he's ready to move on.
There's not really nothing to process when you're doing something that is not in the norm. I mean, I don't know what there is to process. No, because I still had
an attitude. Like, I still was in my, I'm not feeling you kind of stage.
Well,
so it takes me a little longer.
I guess.
Yeah. He gets over it. He's moved on. He's ready. But, the honest thing, just being very transparent, I said to myself, this was very ugly. Where is this coming from? And then the next feeling was like, but I love my husband, and I don't want to destroy what we are building.
You know what it reminded me? That whole scene, that whole thing was, you seen Want to Get You Sucker?
Yes.
The part where the woman is the woman turns into
she's so crazy because she's on her cycle. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's a good one. Yeah, that's what it felt. I mean, the fire, y'all, was brewing. It was like fire. Her whole
hair just went fro and just no.
No, but that's you better stop. No, well, if that's how it looked, yeah. I mean, looking back, it was nasty, and we don't have really bad fights like that. We're more sarcastic, and then we don't argue. We'll just say what we need to say, and then have discussion.
But I said that to segue back into that is because we look at our marriage as it is a covenant and not a contractual thing. If we came into this as a contractual thing, we would have just left it alone. As far as left the marriage and just said we going our separate ways.
Facts.
I think when you, like you said, when you look at it as God intended it to be, as a covenant, there's going to be some issues and situations that comes up, but you have to be able to work through them, forgive each other, and move forward.
I think that nobody tells the truth about what to expect in marriage.
Yeah.
And every marriage is different. So we're just only sharing from our point of view. But the thing about marriage is you're getting into a relationship that you are about to die to yourself, but you're also going to meet a version of yourself that you've never met.
Right.
The second thing is when you meet this version, the other person is going to be a mirror. And it's blind spots that you have as an individual that we always think we're amazing. And yes, we are amazing, but we have blind spots. And when we have blind spots, it is our spouse that will shine a light and say, this is something that is not pretty.
Right.
This is something that you need to work on. Or this is how you're treating your friends and you're not aware, or you're attracting the wrong type of people. That's the part that nobody wants to talk about. Also, it is a sacrifice that you are making because you are putting someone else's needs above your needs. And I'm not talking about, oh, I need to go to the store, I need time by myself, none of those different things. But when you are in a covenant, you are surrendering to the vows that you made, and that better for worse, sickness and health, death do you part. All of those different things are completely the things that you're dying to on an everyday basis. Oh, you just gonna take a sip of water? He's so rude. He back, yo. You back?
I was thirsty.
Okay.
All
You
right.
should have took a sip of water before you started.
Look,
I said all that to say that he's so reckless.
look.
Reckless for the folks.
There's nothing wrong.
Let me know in the comments, okay? Do you agree or disagree?
All right. All
That's what we're going to leave that there, right? Put it in the comments. Do you agree with what I just said or not?
That was my Buc-ee's cup too.
Yes, he loves Buc-ee's, y'all.
Buc-ee's. No.
All right, next question. Have we ever treated our marriage like a contract? For some examples, have we been keeping score?
Ooh.
Conditional love, like things like that.
I think in the beginning, I think we won't say we were, but I think we were in the beginning. I think we were keeping score.
Okay, and give an example.
You used to do this, but don't do this no more.
Yes, facts.
Or let's see what else. I think that's about the only thing that I can guess off the top of my head right now.
We were constantly reminding each other
what we done, what we haven't done
in the past.
Yeah, in the past.
But the problem was we were in a new season and didn't recognize that the new season had begun. And I think for us, because things happened so fast, the switch happened so fast that we didn't adjust to the new father that you were with two additional babies. Yes, you were a dad to one, but you're parenting two more children really quickly. You have a wife that at the time was still working, and the switch happened. So we were still trying to hold on to the version of when it was just us two. And I think that at that season, that was very contractual, which caused us to have, I would say, not a disagreement, but we were trying to find that synergy. The first year, 2 years of marriage, people say it is bliss. And I think it was beautiful. I think that we were changing as people, and we wanted to hold on to the old version of who you were and what was presented.
I think we were trying to figure it out. And I mean, with bringing two kids into the mix, into the fold so quickly.
Yeah, I think, well, let me ask you guys this question. Does marriage change when you have children?
Yes.
I think that's a really good question.
It does change.
It does.
When you have children.
It does.
Especially if the mother is not understanding that, hey, it's God, husband, spouse, your spouse, and then children, and then friends.
Yeah.
In that order.
So I did not see it in that order at all, because I'm like, the kids are brand new and they need us.
That doesn't necessarily mean just because you put it in that order that you negate what especially with
Your
babies.
responsibilities.
Yeah, you don't negate your responsibilities as a parent. But what I'm saying is, you know, besides God, your spouse should be the next in line that you're thinking of, thinking about.
Yes, I understand that order. So it is God, spouse, which is the husband, the wife, then the children.
Right.
I understand that. However, it was very hard for me to see and how to practically implement that. That didn't come easy for me.
So I
it
got
came
a question,
easy for you.
and I got a question for the folks that are watching. I didn't grow up in church, right? And you grew up in church. How do, and I know we might be going off topic, how do people who grow up in church miss that?
That's a good question. Put it in the chat. I'll answer for myself, but I will definitely love to read some of your responses. So for me, the reason why I missed it was because even in church, there's not a lot of conversations about the covenant of marriage at all.
But it's in the Bible.
It's in the Bible. And so, like I said before on another episode, y'all, when you don't read the word for yourself, you be out here just floating around. Now, there are some people whose standards or their principles and truth, because yes, you did not read the Bible, but the standards
Wait a
for
minute. Hold on.
when I'm talking about before.
I didn't finish reading the Bible yet. I've read some of it. There's some things that are innate in people. I think that just
Yes, because your family dynamics and the principles of the standard of marriage was you didn't have a problem with that because you do come from a generation.
I sure did.
He comes from a generation of married. I didn't come from generations and generations and generations of people being married.
Okay.
So when you go to church and you're asking that question because you believe, how did I miss that order when you grew up in church your whole entire life?
Well, not just you. I'm just
but just
saying,
people in general.
and people in general who have grown up in church.
Well, here's the thing: we're in a covenant with the relationship with God,
Right.
And if we get that wrong, we gonna get this wrong.
That's true.
So if I can't get my covenant with God Himself in order, I'm not gonna show up the way how God made you to be in relationship with you. I'm gonna show up a hot diggity dog mess. Don't matter if you in church or not. I say that church is a hospital for sick people, and now church is a little different. You definitely have to be very careful.
We watched a video
Listen,
of this pastor. I'm not gonna say his name, and I'm not gonna say the name of the church. But
Pray for her.
yo, these folks
doing the most,
They ain't about to go straight to HE double hockey sticks.
busting hell wide open. Okay.
Like having people dressed up,
Kendrick
Beyonce,
Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar playing the songs.
It was just a hot mess. I'm
it's a
like,
hot
on the
mess,
the Lord's Day, how we just, I don't even
On a
understand how we
Sunday.
can.
And then the kids, Lord have mercy.
Them poor babies.
But
All right.
Anyways, I'm sorry.
We done segue a lot, but we like to have fun. Too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a mess.
It
So
was a mess.
that's how I missed it. Let us know in the chat of how, basically on his question. So I'm going to move right along so we don't keep segueing.
Okay. All right.
One question that I have, has culture played a bigger part on our marriage? And well, not on our marriage, but let's just ask it in general. Has culture played a big part on marriage today?
I think so. I think so. When you're so in tune, or not so in tune, when you're so engrossed into the culture, it plays a huge part. You go off of things that is not biblical.
Yeah.
That's not in the Bible.
Like the 50-50 split.
Jesus, it's not 50-50, it's 100-100.
Yes.
It's not 50-50. This whole thing about, she pays this and then he pays that, or
They usually do it with money, but I think emotionally
too. It's not 50-50, or it's not 60-40, or we mostly hear 50-50. It's not 50-50. It's 100. You should wake up, both husband and wife should wake up willing and wanting to give 100% to each other every day. Every day. And culture makes it seem as though you only have to give 50%.
Yeah.
And I can tell you from experience, I've thought that way for a while.
Oh, you did?
Mhm.
Not in our marriage.
No, not in our marriage. I've Okay,
He's been
guys,
married
I've been
before.
married before. I've been married 3 other times. All right, so I'm gonna just put
Y'all.
that out there. So this is my 4th and my last marriage. I finally got it right. So,
And
I'll
people
s-
probably, how
and I'm
did
gonna-
you accept that, right? That's
so
for another topic.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic. But yes, I used to believe 50-50 and not wanting. I would go, give my 100% to the Marine Corps, or try my best to give my 100%, and then at home had nothing to give to, that particular spouse. So, and that spouse, when I say spouse, I'm talking about women. So, all right. So I just want to make that clear, because today, culture.
We'll say, oh, your spouse? Yeah.
No. So yeah, I think culture has dumbed down covenant in marriage how God has intended it to be.
Yes.
And I think another big person that has played a part in that, and again, I'm not bringing, in politics wise, is Obama has changed that.
He going there, y'all.
Yes, I am.
And he don't care.
You
There
know,
are many people who love Obama, but his legacy is the starting point for what relationships have shifted into.
Yep.
So same-sex marriage. Now, if you are a believer of Jesus Christ, I have family members that's their lifestyle. I have no problem with them at all, but I still believe in the word of God.
Right.
And so that's not going to trump what you're feeling with, what you're doing. That's a standard for me. And I'm not going to segue from that. Just like you don't want to segue from your lifestyle, I'm not segueing from my lifestyle,
right.
or my decisions and my principles and the foundation of the word of God being my foundation. Kudos to y'all that want to be out there doing all the reckless stuff. Go right ahead.
Go right ahead.
There's no judgment from me, but
Right.
this is the standard for me. And so we can get into a whole other topic, but for culture right now that's being pushed is women are very much in love with having a career, and it's nothing wrong with that. I had a career, I enjoyed it, and there is another narrative that if a woman who chooses to be at home with their children, it's like other women are like, oh, that's all you do.
Right.
And it's like, you have to remember that I am not only raising a human being to be a great person in society, I'm managing a household. You people who have a career, you work for someone. So you still take orders. As the CEO of my house, guess what? I am the executive. I am making major decisions so that my husband could be where he needs to be, right? And so I think that partnership is like, a lot of people are like, I love my degrees, and there's nothing wrong with that. I champion women who are going out there and doing all the things. I did it, and I loved when my career was taking off. It made me happy. It made me feel fulfilled. I was in purpose. However, I wanted a man. Because going home to yourself, I don't care how many girlfriends you have, how many girl trips you have, you know that them degrees is not giving you a hug. You know that the money is not enough. You know that. We were meant to be in relationship, to be in covenant. So I think that narrative of like, I don't need a man is not coming from a place that they don't need a man. They don't want any old type of man. They don't want a man who's in the streets. They have a standard, and there's nothing wrong with them having a standard. I think that sometimes that narrative is cut off by just saying, I don't need a man. There's more context to I don't need a man. What should be said is, I don't need a man that is, and then they should list out what they don't need.
No, I think it should more so say, instead of saying, I don't need a man, I want a man, but here are the type of men that I do not want.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. There's power. The Lord tells us we have death and life is in the power of the tongue.
Yeah, and
so if you
keep
say
saying,
that
I
you don't want a
need-
man,
No, if you say you don't need a man, you're not going to get a man.
you're not, right? You're not. So I think that the narrative has to change in culture completely so that we're not speaking death or the very thing. You want to attract, if you want love, you know, there's something about the fulfillment of being in a unity. It always feels good. Like that was the main reason why God intended marriage, was for the unity. He can do amazing things through this covenant. And it doesn't have to be for the gram and all that other stuff. This is what you can do. When you strengthen marriages, you strengthen families. When you strengthen families, you strengthen society. These people are going to be raised up, and then it's going to make the next generation be great.
Right.
So you got to start with the healthy marriages. Then healthy marriages make healthy families make healthy society. Yeah. And that's how we change it. And I think that culture is very contrary to the biblical foundation of what marriage is all about. Yeah. We make it about everything else, and it has nothing to do with that. If you just forget that you signed the piece of paper, he's not going to get it right, and you're not going to get it right all the time.
No, you're not.
And it's and that's okay.
Like, from someone who's been married 3 other times, I didn't get it right all the time.
No. So y'all probably like, how does she get with somebody who had that resume?
Hey.
So here's the thing. When I met him, I wasn't looking. And we said we was gonna save it for another episode, but
neither
like,
was I.
No.
I wasn't looking either.
No, but I feel like we got to tell y'all, right? We're not. This ain't no lying stuff. We're gonna be very transparent. So when I met him through a mutual friend, but I was not looking. So I believe I was in a season where I was enjoying life. My grandmother had told me, Angelica, your Boaz is not coming to that salon. Like, you go to work, you go to church, you do a few activities, and that's it. Like, you need to start doing things that make you uncomfortable. And when I heard her say that, I was like, uncomfortable? Why would I do anything that makes me uncomfortable? Like, I want to have fun and enjoy myself. I had no kids. I had my own place. And my next goal was like, I wanted to be 100% debt free. And then I was working towards purchasing my own property. So I had goals for myself. I just was like, okay, I've been so grinding this career. I'm going to take a year off to just have fun. So that was my fun year. And my fun year, I met him. And when I met him, the beautiful thing is, like, when they say a man findeth a wife, it's not that he's out there searching. You're just in the right place at the right time. And I didn't see him as my husband, right? I did not. But when someone introduced us, we were in someone's living room, a good friend of ours, and they introduced us to each other. And it's like, oh, this is Terrence, this is Angelica, shook his hand, walked away. But when I shook his hand, loud as day, I've only heard the audible voice of God 3 times. And God speaks to me through dreams very heavily. But anyway, it was like, this is your husband. I completely ignored it, didn't say anything, just went about my business. He sat on one part of the room. I sat on another part of the room. And we became friends. And friendship, like, really, it's like God did not allow me to lust over him, to desire him, to hug, it was like I couldn't see, but I knew he was a nice guy. And so when we started to hang out and his life was going through a little bit of a pivot and a change, we stayed friends. And then when we decided to, okay, we have feelings for each other, it was like the switch happened. It was like, now I can see him. Now I can see him and like, ooh, he cute. It was like a switch happened. But what I said all that to say is that one of the parts that God had to show me was my resume. And a lot of times we have these things on the list. He had everything on the list that I did not want. He couldn't have been married. I didn't want him to have a child. And I didn't want him to be in a service, because where we lived, it was all service people. And all I heard was women at that time saying, oh, get yourself a man that, in the military, your life is going to be secure. And I'm like, whoever God is going to intend, they're going to secure me regardless, because their standard to God is enough. Like, it's not because of their job, know, because those things could be taken away, which was taken away from you. Right. So anyway, one day I was like praying. I was like, this guy's resume is not pretty, but because I didn't see him in the light of like, he's my husband and I seen him as a friend, I was able to respect those things and to get to know the character before I looked at his resume and say he's disqualified. Okay. Yeah. So definitely when you are walking in a relationship and your character and your standards and I didn't have to pursue, I didn't have to hunt, I just presented the best version of who God made me at that season. And even in his pivot, he was still showing me the character of who he was. And because we had friendship, we were very honest and had conversation. There was conversation that we should have had that we didn't have, like financial. We should have had that conversation. We didn't get that right. But one of the things that we did talk about, we talked about our relationship with God. I told you, I am not a drug. I don't want you to feel anything. We are in this because we equally are saying yes to this. And I used to always tell you, I'm not a drug. I'm not a drug.
Yeah, you still say that till this day, but I like to say it differently. You are my drug, so it is what it is. So
life and death is in the tongue, right? So not gonna say anything.
Anyways.
Yes. So with that being said, I know we kind of got off a little topic, but I hope that was helpful for you. Even with telling our story, our little backstory about how we met, even though my resume is not clean. I just don't, unless God tells me to share, then I'll share. But my resume, I have dated people that was totally contrary. I remember one time.
We getting way off topic.
I know, but I just got to tell this story.
We got to finish.
Okay. We're not going to tell this story.
Yeah, we can tell that story later.
Okay. Because, see, he could tell about his.
I didn't tell a story. Oh. I just said what I said real quickly. I didn't go into a deep dive. I'm sure we'll go in a deep dive on our past.
Okay.
Later
with that being said, moving right along. Right.
So these folks like, dang, they just get off topic real quick.
Yeah.
It's all good though.
Yes. I hope you guys are enjoying our show. If you are enjoying it, make sure you like for the algorithm. It helps us reach more people.
Like, subscribe.
Yes, all that good stuff.
That.
So what happens when we fully embrace the covenant of love?
Ooh. You look at, for me, and from my perspective, and for me, you look at your spouse in a totally different light. I look at you in a totally different light. I don't so much, not that I was in the beginning doing that, but it's more than just physical attraction. It's more than just lust, I guess you could say. There's a lot of things that now I look at you in a totally different, like the physical aspect is still there. I want to jump on you is still there, but yes. It's just more so, even when you do something that irks my nerves, I still look at you in a whole new, it's kind of hard. It's like a light that just shines over you.
You've been saying that since we've been together.
I know, right?
It's like something glows over you.
It's just something that glows. I don't know.
I mean,
and it's even more now that, because I see you with the kids, how you handle the kids with love and care, and it's just all that plays a part in how you make it a priority for us to stay in a tight knit group. So that's how it's changed my perspective. Instead of just looking at it, whereas I looked at my other marriages as, okay, it's just I'm married, but it's not. I know that I can walk out the door anytime. Whereas I wanted this one, or even if it wasn't you, my next one, because I was gonna get married again. I just didn't know.
He's a marriage guy.
I just didn't know when, and I wasn't going to be out looking for it and pursuing it. And I definitely wasn't going to date. I was going to give myself some time, figure out what it was that I wanted to do, wanted to be, things of that nature. Our friendship just took a total turn.
Yes.
So,
yeah,
that's how.
So I have another question for you. And
divorce, and again, if you look at it as a covenant, and as a covenant, divorce is never on the table. You don't walk into it and saying, hey, I can leave this marriage at any point in time. Like, that shouldn't even be a thought in your mind.
No, it shouldn't. But a lot of people do have it. If you get really upset, I mean, a few times we've even gotten something, you're like, there's the door if you don't like it, but we know we're not going anywhere. Right. And that's that's not common in our conversation at all. Divorce is not an option at all.
What was your question?
I lost my question, but it'll come back to me. But one of the things that you were saying was, you look at me differently. And I think that I never viewed how you viewed me in motherhood, if that was attractive to you.
It's
right?
very attractive.
And that's beautiful to hear, because sometimes we're just in the mothering and we're not realizing that also makes your spouse desire you, because they see how well you're taking care of the seeds that you guys produce.
Right.
Now, my question is, do you think marrying the right woman and creating a covenant with them can change a man's life?
Oh, most definitely.
What are some of the benefits for men to marry right?
The benefits is you're able to concentrate on what you're supposed to be doing and doing best, and that is to provide for your spouse and for your wife and your children if you have children. I think it's a lot easier when you marry the right woman and she completely understands that although she has her own goals and her own dreams and aspirations, she has now came into a covenant to where I can somewhat, not somewhat, but I'm able to woosah because I know that the man that I married and came into covenant with he's going to go out and make things happen.
Yeah.
So and I've said this before, if I had met you years ago, previously before, we might have not gotten married so quickly. And we would have, before my other previous marriages, if I'd have met you way before then, those previous marriages, I would have only been married to her and only her. There would have been I'm sure because we were younger, there would have some growing pains. And I think there would have been some time to figure things out. And I'm sure we wouldn't have had kids right away. But at the same time, I know that because of the type of woman that she is, it would have been easy for me to become who I had aspirations to become. And that's me. What I'm saying is in the military, when I first joined the military, I knew when I first signed that contract, I knew that I wanted to do 30 years, whether I was going to be enlisted or whether I was going to be enlisted and transfer over to officer route or warrant officer route. There was another dream that I had, which I did make that happen, but I didn't finish it, becoming a drill instructor. I was like, okay, I'm doing 30 years. I'm going to become a drill instructor and I'm going to become a sergeant major. That was my dreams. During that time frame, because I married 3 women, it played a huge part on me not accomplishing that goal. I didn't, nothing to say that there was something wrong with them. They weren't the right one for me, to be able to get and accomplish that goal. And I'm not trying to knock them at all. I also realized too that the main person that all 3 of those other women had in common was me. So I had to realize, and someone who's been married for over 30 years told me that at any point, what do those 3 other women have in common? And it was me. So I had to realize that there were some things that was wrong with me because I was the person who they married. So there
and you're supposed to be the head, so
right,
you're not leading them.
And so that was another thing that I had to realize, hey, wait a minute, he got a point. And the common denominator is me.
Yeah.
And until I realized that, if I never realized that, we wouldn't be here today.
Yeah. And we wouldn't have been able to get married at all because the transformation that was already taking place internally for himself, his standards, even in things that we've had challenges ourselves, what's made it a world of difference is because he's thoroughly honest with himself.
Right.
And when you can take full accountability, your transformation of who you are and who you desire to become, that past resume, because a lot of women got resumes, but they don't really share their resumes. Right. But you got a resume. And if you have had boyfriend after boyfriend after boyfriend, or dated this person, got engaged, now you're divorced, all of that different stuff, that's your resume. And it can travel with you, but you have to work on thyself in order to present. And that's why I said yes to marrying him, because I wasn't marrying the resume. I was marrying the character and his heart to want to be the best version that God intended him to be. And not that I was marrying his potential, because he already there are people that's like, I married his potential. No, I did not marry the potential. God allowed me to see who he was, period, to see his heart, not what the resume
I already
said.
passed majority of men in the world anyways by joining the Marine Corps anyway. So
okay,
that the potential there was our please.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, what I'm saying is there are people that's like, oh, married for the potential. I married him when I was 30. So I had all of my 20s, which I call it your adolescent years of adulthood. You're figuring it out.
Right.
But for me to get into a covenant with you and to say this is death to you part is because God allowed me to see your heart. And if you can see someone's heart, not the superficial stuff, oh, they take me out to dinner, oh, they do, like, those are great activities. You want to see the heart of the person. Watch how they, you know, when I met him, he was raising his sister because his mom died. That says a lot about a person who can sacrifice, that had no children, to take on a child to then raise them. Did he get it right? No. And did he get some things right? Yes. But when I seen that you can sacrifice, lay down your life, rearrange your life, and to be truthfully honest, I said to him, if I was your age and my mother died and I had little brothers, I don't know personally if I would have done the same exact thing that you have done. And that showed me his heart and just how he served other people, how he was not saying yes to things. He had good boundaries, because I remember you told me no. I'm like, this man done told me no, I'm his friend. But that was good, because that taught me that I don't have to say yes to everything that you invite me to or anything like that. And so it was easier to get into a covenant and for God to shine a light on his heart more than his resume. I think that's why marriages are failing today, and why we have the narrative of culture being so loud, because we are allowing people that are not in it for the covenant. They're in for the contract. It's like, oh, you treat me good, I treat you good, so we're good. We have fun. No, you need to start saying, what does it look like when you are depressed? What does it look like? How do you deal with trauma? How's your family relationships? Now, I didn't know your whole family, but I knew that you had sisters, so I knew you had a respect for women. I knew that, like, God allowed me to show. We went to church together. You got baptized. I did not get baptized. So his pursuit of wanting to be devoted to God, because he had tried other different ways. So he's like, okay, this ain't working. And like he said earlier, it's like he said it was this glow. I didn't try to be Miss Bible Thumper and tell him anything. I'm just like, my life is a living example for me surrendering to God. Like, that's the only thing.
Definitely not doing that. I married someone like that, my first marriage, that was just a Bible thumper.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with being a Bible thumper, but it was a lot of
hypocrisy.
Yeah, it was a lot of her being a hypocrite and stuff like that. But yeah,
that's not the point,
that's not
right?
the point,
but when I say not a Bible thumper, I wasn't trying to preach the word at him. If I'm going to be a helpmate the way God designed it, then his walk is his walk. And the beautiful thing is, like, when you're in real relationship with God and in a covenant with God, he will allow you to see the heart of a person, to see the characteristics of the person, and not to see all of, okay, yes, he was in shape, he had some good muscles, all of that good stuff, right? Yes, he was very handsome. Yes, he had good manners.
I was very handsome?
I'm not saying, I'm talking about then when I was single and I was looking at you.
Oh,
okay, yes, you were very handsome. Very handsome.
I got a dad bod going on right
Yeah, the dad bod is real. But we in the gym faithfully. We don't lose it, because mama got a little something too. Like, it's a lot.
Okay.
But when you're in relationship with God, he will allow you to see the person, not to see the resume and all the other stuff. And so covenant is way more important than treating your marriage like a contract.
Right.
And you got to lose the narrative. If you are married now and you're at a turmoil with your husband, I promise you that as soon as you just literally surrender to, this person may have changed, but if you can say that you've done everything that you can, that you've tried it all, you've changed who you are. You don't even have to argue, debate, and all that stuff, because most of the time you're debating to be heard, but nothing is being heard or whatever.
Or to be right.
Just to be right. You can't fight to be right. You got to fight for the vision that you guys have. Like, what are you guys standing on? What principles are you standing on? I think that makes a world of a difference. And I just think as soon as you start to treat it more like a covenant and less like a contract for those who are treating it that way, you will see a major shift in your marriage, because you got to change you first before you try to change the other person. Yeah. It's your actions, how I am, how I show up in my marriage allows this to thrive, and vice versa. you're not trying to change me, and I'm not trying to change him.
Right.
But I am growing with you. So there are certain things that, you know, he has new desires, and we have to discuss it. And it's like, how could I support you in this area? And then there's things that I want to do, and you're like, okay, you know, how could I support you in this area? And I think that makes a world of a difference. So let us know what your thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts, your reactions. What are you feeling? What do you know?
Was that the last question?
That was the last one, boo-boo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So let us know if you enjoyed this conversation. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit it for the algorithm. It helps us to reach more people. Share it with someone if you felt like this was a great conversation. And we'll see you on the next one.
All right. Peace.
Bye.